You have until the count of 5.
I happen to love the number 5. It's a beautiful number, a glorious number.
You got to the count of 5.
Welcome to the Got Till 5 Wrestling Podcast with me, Max Cadden, and my beautiful co-host, Jesse Patrick Benz.
I'm not happy about this. This is every show of 2019 you have introduced now, and we used to do it. We used to take it in turns, and I feel like that's just gone out the window. And you're growing an ego, and I'm unhappy with it.
You mean the 2 shows that we've done in 2019?
Yep.
What would you have done differently then?
I wouldn't have done your stupid rhythm. You always go, welcome to the Got Till 5. You could just go, hello. Just be nicer about it. That's fine.
I feel like you always scare people off.
Do you
when
reckon
you scream at them?
My voice and turn it off?
Yeah, probably.
Hello. Fuck that.
All right, next 2, it's all you, baby. You got this.
Wicked. All right, I'm in. I'll start rehearsing.
Lovely. I'm looking forward to it. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us once again. We've got another exciting episode, and you guys picked this week's top 5. We gave you an option of 4, and you picked top 5 commentators.
This is the way to do it with Twitter votes, because if people vote and it's what they want, they'll listen.
Yeah, you bang on there, mate.
You get me?
Yeah, I get you. Exactly. So this is your poison.
Hang of this.
Yeah, you picked your poison. This is what we're going to be doing. And it's kind of fitting because we've got a guest joining us this week as well. And it ties in quite nicely. So he'll be coming on to join us in a second. But Jesse, are you okay? Everything okay going in your life?
Everything is going okay. What's happening? So my New Year's resolution was to do less music stuff because it eats into my holiday from my real life job and all that. So in the last couple of weeks, I've taken on a gig in Amsterdam next week and a tour through most of March. So it's not going very well at all. It's good that I'm getting offered this work, but it's eating into my holiday already, so I'm sort of happy and sad at the same time.
I was going to say, boo-hoo you.
Yeah, well, you know when like people say that if you make something cold and then suddenly make it hot or vice versa, it might explode?
Yeah.
Have you ever heard that? It's a science thing. I reckon that the same might happen with happy and sad.
What?
I might explode.
Oh. Well, you'll be missed. Let's just say that. You'll be missed.
Yeah. You warned me about making you laugh tonight because you've got a sore throat, haven't you?
I've had this cough.
If you laugh, you might die. You might explode as well.
Exactly. So I've had this cough for like 2 weeks now. Any slight giggle, it sets me off. So between you and our guest, I need like 100% no jokes. Just the most boring episode we can manage. Deal?
Just think about dead puppies or something.
Let's not go that far. Let's not go. Okay, cool, lovely. Before we bring on our guests, I just wanted to remind everyone who loves watching wrestling to go head on over to powerslam.tv. Sign up using our promo code GOTTIL5, all one word, to get a 30-day free trial with promotions such as IPW UK, Bar Wrestling, Riptide, CZW, Defy, OTT, RevPro, and many, many more. You can get over 4,000 hours of the best pro wrestling events from around the world for free for the next 30 days if you use the promo code GOTTIL5 at powerslam.tv. Was it natural, right? Natural segue.
That was a transition that would make Chris Jericho proud.
Right. If it was DDP Yoga, I'd be in the bag right now.
You'd be all over that.
Let's invite our guest who, funny enough, does actually do commentary. I called him the mouth of the Midlands earlier, and he seemed to appreciate it, and that made me feel pretty good about myself. It's the one, the only, Colin Russell-Ames. Hello, sir.
Hello, thank you very much for having me on. And yes, I did love the Mouth of the Midlands nickname that you gave me earlier on. I'm completely stealing it, so thank you.
That's fine. If you get t-shirts, I just want a slight percentage. We don't have to worry about Jesse.
That sounds fair.
I didn't contribute, but I still want some of it, please.
I thought you would. I thought that'd be your angle in. So I want to cover a few things. Obviously, I want to look at like your ring announcing, commentary. You're a big music fan as well, and so I want to kind of get into all of that, if that's cool with yourself.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah, I have talked a little bit in the past on various other mediums about my wrestling history and stuff. So to be asked about other things as well, actually, I think I'll really enjoy. So yeah, this sounds great.
Right, exactly. But I do have to start off with the question you've probably been asked all the time, because I like to know how people get like introduced to wrestling. Like, where did the interest for you start?
Okay, so It very first started as, how old was I? As an 8-year-old, I believe. I was at my aunt's house, and obviously all the grown-ups are downstairs being boring, so me and my cousin Ben go upstairs, and he says, "Oh, you need to watch this," puts a VHS into his TV, because that's how old I am.
Nice.
A VHS, ladies and gentlemen. And he shows me a match between the Hardy Boys, the Dudley Boys, and Edge and Christian, TLC 2 from WrestleMania 17.
Yes, my first as well.
That was in your top 5 favourite WrestleMania matches of all time, isn't it, mate?
It was, and I think one of my top 5 favourite matches, like, ever. Cause,
it might have been, bloody hell.
So, yeah, that's what got me into it as well. Just men smacking men, and even Lita getting smacked around.
Yeah, it's just the amount of sheer carnage that I witnessed as that 8-year-old child, just watching men flying through tables and hurling themselves off 20-foot ladders. It was beautiful. From literally that second, I was hooked. I never once turned back. I've been a wrestling fan from that day to this.
Well, you never really... There's no other medium like it, really, especially when you see the hardcore stuff, because I always remember my friend Adam used to have steal ECW videos from his brother's bedroom.
Nice.
And we used to, like, sneak off and watch, because, like, it was ECW and South Park were, like, the things you weren't allowed to watch.
Yes.
And, yeah.
When you steal blank videotapes from an older brother, it's either going to be wrestling or porn, isn't it? There's no in between.
Either way, and considering it's ECW, either way, it was going to be hardcore action.
Exactly the point. So, I think that's always a good start to get you in. What was yours, Jesse? I never remember. What was your, like, intro match?
Oddly, my introduction was, what was it? It was King of the Ring same sort of thing then. So it was King of the Ring 2001, which is a video that I borrowed off a friend, which was Kurt Angle, Shane McMahon, which is the sort of match that really got me into stuff. So same sort of thing, right? Just seeing bodies get absolutely destroyed gets you hooked.
That's what you need to get your kids involved in wrestling. They're doing it all wrong.
Yeah, man. Like just just remembering him failing to and then eventually going through that glass, just especially when I was about the same age, so it sticks with you, you know.
You're like, well, this is me hooked, I'm good now.
Yeah, that first time when he gets kind of suplexed, hits it back first and lands on his head, that's an image that's going to remain with you for a long time.
And the sound.
Oh, yes.
That's all. Of his head, yeah.
Gotta love it. Now, I was trying to think, like, first time you and me would have met would have been at a Cammy show, right? Obviously, you would have been announcing. How did you kind of come...
I imagine so.
Yeah, round about then. How did you kind of come up involved with, like, ring announcing commentary? Was it Cammy first, or were there other avenues into that?
No, it was. It was, well, certainly getting into the wrestling business, it was Kamikaze anyway. They were the guys who gave me a chance. It was by luck, to be honest with you, because I went along to my first show as a fan, which was I was in very early. It was only the 5th show Kamikaze Pro ever did. It was called Rise of Uha, and it was at a church venue in Digbeth. So awful that we've never been back there since.
Brilliant.
It was, wonderful. The main event was Uha Nation versus Eddie Dennis, which was just, as you can imagine, marvellous.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And when I went, I realised that I recognised the girl working behind the merchandise table. It was an old friend of mine from sixth form called Kim. So I went up, said hello after the show, and then the ring announcer, who had been announcing for that entire show, who was Laurie Neal, came over to the table, and Kim was like, "Oh, let me introduce my boyfriend, Laurie." So I was like, that's how you got involved in this. Immediately made friends with Laurie, because I was like, this is a man I obviously want to know.
Yeah.
Laurie's genuinely been one of my finest friends ever since. And then I was introduced to kind of the boss, the head of the whole thing, and told him that I happened to live about a 10-minute walk away from the Cadbury Club, which was the venue of the next show. So therefore I offered to do any kind of postering or flyering or anything he wanted. I was like, I really want to be involved in wrestling. I've loved it for years and years. I know Laurie, I know Kim. I was blagging completely. I'd known Laurie for a minute, so I was blacking completely. I was like, I know Laws, he's a good bloke. And yeah, basically got myself in with a chance to be able to do that. Started off doing all the stuff that you're supposed to do when you're coming up. I was working on the merchandise table. I was setting up the chairs before the shows, carrying the ring into the venue, all that kind of thing. That was how I started, and just spent a few years doing that.
Nice.
How do you then transition to a sort of commentary / announcer role? Because I find that it's the, with music, wrestling, like acting, whatever. Like, you can get involved, and it's great to get involved and work hard at sort of that bottom level and work your way up. But sometimes you become so much part of the furniture in that role that it's really difficult to progress. Do you know what I mean?
No, that is a fair point. And for me, I'm going to be perfectly honest, it was kind of a case of knowing the right people, because by this point, after about, I think it was just under a year or so, I had become very good mates with Laws, and we always had a good rapport with one another. So when their old commentator, they kind of cycled through a few commentators. Laws was always the main man, and then he had another commentator with him that was one of 2 or 3 people. And one by one, all of those people dropped off until he had a show where he had no co-commentator. So about a week before the show, he sent me a message saying, "Bring your suit to the next show. I want to try you on comms."
Nice. Awesome. That's cool. Yeah, so I suppose he vouched for you and obviously knew you well and knew that you had the right personality.
Exactly, yeah, because he knew that me and him could bounce off one another well, and he knew that I was confident in it and very knowledgeable about wrestling. He just kind of went, right, you have a shot, and literally since then I've only ever missed one show, and that's because I was in hospital. So that's it. I've been Kamikaze Pro ever since.
Amazing.
Damn right. And so one thing I'm noticing, especially when I see you doing announcing and stuff, and I don't know if it is just because it's you, but is it just me, or are people's introduction names getting longer and longer?
Oh, yes. I can only imagine that they are. To be fair, particularly with independent wrestling, because announcements quite often tend to be made after the music rather than when the music's playing. The announcements are becoming very important parts of gimmicks, because it gives you a chance to get your character over to a crowd that's never seen you before. The very first 2 things that they're going to learn about you are, 1, what is your entrance, and 2, what does the announcer say about you when you walk out? So it's their very first chance, and that's why we'll get on to the man that I'm sure you were about to mention in a second, Mr. fucking 28 nicknames. But that's why, as an example, a former guest of this podcast, the Elliot Jordan Experience, that's why his introduction is kind of perfect for his character, because if a crowd have never seen him before and then they hear the ring announcer, whether it be me or whether it be somebody else on a different show, say that his hairstyle is deliberately streamlined and aerodynamic and his beard's a shock-absorbing tactical masterpiece, it's obvious that he's this arrogant kind of knobhead who you're not going to like, and that gets the character over. Job done before he's even started wrestling.
Yeah, completely. Because I was going to say, if we have David Starr, Elliot Jordan, and even the Lad Divine on the show, we're there half the night doing introductions. Yes.
The saddest thing is that as far as those ones in particular, 2 of the 3 I am responsible for, essentially. The Elliot Jordan Experience's introduction, I'm proud to say that I wrote. That was a creation of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
And then the lad Sean Devine, he started the idea, but I kind of added more to it. So when he came to me, I think he had 4. He was the Ebenezer, Lemon Squeezer, Bacardi Breezer, Naughty Geezer.
Yeah.
And every so often I'd just send him a message on Facebook going, you should put this in there. So he's now up to about 7 or 8. I've just added them over time. So I'm making a rod for my own back, really.
You really are. And I think you got a special gift for that, because when we spoke to Elliot, he said the same thing, that you were kind of helping him out. And I didn't know that about Sean either. But even last time I was with you guys, and I think it was like one of Al's first matches last time, and Al's got this comic book character for people that don't know, and he was like, I don't know what to do for a nickname, and Colin, quick as a dime, just went, what about the Modern Marvel? And everyone just had that kind of stop moment of like, that's genius. And you seem to do that quite a bit with like helping people out with especially the introduction of character and stuff. Is that just something that kind of comes naturally to you?
It is, in a way, yeah. The Modern Marvel thing I actually thought of, funnily enough, the night before. So I was really glad that Al said, I'm trying to think of a nickname, because it just so happened the previous night, as I was going down the card, because quite often the night before a show I'll have a look at a card, see who I'm introducing, and get some notes and stuff. Particularly if I'm on commentary, because if I'm on commentary for the show, I need to know a bit about it before I get there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I went down the card and I saw that it was Alan. I think it might have been his first. It was either his first or his second. It was one of his very early ones.
Yeah, I think it was against Brandon Thomas. I think that was it.
Oh yes, and I know that Brandon uses a nickname. He calls himself the Big Fella when he's a good guy. So I thought, well, Al needs a little something, but is there anything that he could go with the comic book thing? And then I just kind of, I can't explain how it happens. I just sort of looked at him and went, comic book, Modern Marvel, works perfect. Yeah.
You couldn't come up with Mouth of the Midlands, though.
No, Mouth of the Midlands, I often call myself things like, I I have a running joke with promoters and people that I work with that I always call myself the voice of whatever company I happen to be with at the time. And it's not like... It's not a self-aggrandizing thing, like it's a genuine joke, but I always am like, oh yes, I'm the voice of Wolfram Pro Wrestling. I'm the voice of the Shropshire Wrestling Alliance. I'm the voice of Kamikaze Pro. You know, it's just... And then I recently became the voice of National Express because, I work for National Express, the coach company, and recently when we had an issue with our website, when you phone up and get that recorded message, it's going, we're really sorry, but we're experiencing high call volumes. That was me.
Awesome.
So, yes.
That's the next claim to fame in the world.
I know. So, yeah, I became the voice of National Express on top of all the others. But
nice.
The Mouth of the Midlands is a good one.
Wow.
It is, yeah.
As we say.
I'm glad that we gave it to you.
Hang on. We. This 10%'s like rising to 15%. I don't know where it's going to stop. But to stick with nicknames, obviously, we got to mention David Starr, the man with, 1,001 nicknames at this point.
Yeah, he's got a heck of a list on him.
Oh, it's ridiculous. And I always love watching you do his intro because I remember once, and it must have been like one of the first times, but you kind of fucked up halfway through and the dread in your face and you were just like so angry with yourself. Yeah. But then at the next show or the show after, you nailed it. And I've never seen so much happiness in one person's face to nail it all the way through.
I think, am I right in saying, I know a few Kamikaze guys came up to the SWA show where I got his name without cards for the first time. Were you one of them? I don't think
I was at that SWA one.
I don't think you were at that one in particular, no. But yeah, the first time that I ever actually tried to do it without cards, because the first couple of times I introduced David, I used a card because of course you would. But then I had a week of I had a month, of shows where it just so happened I was announcing a show every weekend in a row for 3 weeks, and every single one of those shows featured David Starr. So at the first show, I kind of made a joke to him and kind of said, by the third one, I'm going to be doing this without reading it off a card. And it became a bit of a challenge. So I spent the week running up to that final show desperately memorizing it. I was even stood next to referee Joel Allen in the ring at the time, going over and over it in my head. And then I fucked it after the second nickname.
Oh, it was the pause and the dread. I'm sorry.
Was a really early burnout. It was so bad. And the thing is I then went and sat down on commentary, commentating at the time with my number one favourite commentary partner, by the way, Damien Dunn. He's marvellous on comms, he really is. Went and sat down with Damien and immediately did it on commentary just to prove that I had memorised it. Because Damien obviously picked me up and was like, oh, you messed that up a bit there, Colin. What do you mean? We're messed up calling him the cream in your coffee, your favourite wrestler's favourite wrestler, the Jewish can, and just did the whole thing just to prove that I had done it. But
to be fair, I've seen David Starr in a couple of different promotions, and I've never seen an announcer without a cue card introducing. So that's a good string to your bow. Yeah,
the one kind of smug point that I always have up to the point at which it is still my pinned tweet on Twitter is the fact that since he changed it, the last time he changed it was last year when he added the best of the best because he won CZW's Best of the Best tournament. After he changed it, I was the first ring announcer in the world to do the new one without cards.
Amazing.
Yeah, so that's which David actually said to me, like, after the match, he said it to me at half time. He was like, by the way, nobody has done the new one without cards yet. And I was like, fuck yes, that is my new claim to fame. Forever.
That's a brag you need.
That and the National Express voice.
That and being the voice of National Express, of course.
I'm glad you brought up you and Damien on commentary because you guys are just, like, if he ever packs up this whole wrestling thing, I want him to go into commentary because you two together is just hilarious.
I've said it to him myself many times, and it was an unfortunate circumstance that originally led to it because the first time we ever called a show together was a Shropshire Wrestling Alliance show called Sledgehammer, which was Damien was supposed to be wrestling on that show and then got injured. So the promoter very kindly said to him, I'll still come along, we'll put you on commentary and we'll give you a wage for the night, which is really good. It's a decent thing to do for injured wrestlers where you can. So me and Damien just called that whole show together and it was the best night of commentary. Damien's a man who is effortlessly funny. And I'll admit a lot of it is at my expense, but that's how his humour works. And he just is, there's something about me and him behind a commentary table together. We have a charisma that just clicks off one another.
Yeah, you're both very quick-witted and can kind of just, as you say, just bounce off of each other.
Yeah, we fire back and forth at one another a lot, and he's great. Although there was one SWA show, the most recent show, their Super Show at the end of last year, where I was informed afterwards that they had to edit the commentary. I'd given them a difficult job because they picked up at one point where I took my headset off, stood up to go to the ring, and called Damien a fucking dickhead. Because Damien had been on rare form that night.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, so sorry about that, guys, but yes,
it happens.
He's great. He's a joy.
You can't compromise your art.
Exactly.
Best way of looking at it. Have you got any, because obviously you've got the sweet deal. Me and Jesse talked about this last week when we were talking about Mean Gene Oakland, where you kind of get the sweet gig of you get to be in the ring with all of these top talents, all of these great guys, but you don't have to do any bumps or any stupid shit like that. You can just enjoy the moment. So have you got any kind of standout moments from A, doing ring announcing, and B, from when you're on commentary? Like, does anything kind of stand out from those two roles?
Yeah, a few things do. The first time that I got David Starr, that's really a moment that rings in my head, because David knew how long I've been trying to learn this, trying to get it down in my head so that I knew exactly what I was saying the whole time. And literally after I got to the very end of his introductions, he had the product David Starr, and he stands up and does his pose, his usual taunts or whatever. Then he just spins around 180 in the center of the ring and gives me the biggest hug. And it was just a wonderful moment, because I was just stood there like, I finally did it. Yes. So that was really nice. And then apart from that, to be honest, man, it's the people that I've got to announce and the stuff that I've got to announce as well. Like, I've announced matches for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah, I was about to mention that,
the TNA Women's Championship, the Ring of Honor Television Championship, I think I've announced a match for. I've announced a match for the CZW World Tag Title, the CZW World Title. It's ridiculous that I've gotten to do all this stuff and also announce some of the best professional wrestlers in the world, both from the UK and from abroad. I mean, getting to announce Jimmy Havoc for the first time was a real special thing for me, because he was one of the guys who got me into British wrestling. Announcing guys like El Ligero and Dave Mastiff. And then being able to say that I've announced for Speedball Mike Bailey, for example, one of Kamikaze Pro's kind of regular international guests, who's a real, just phenomenal professional wrestler, and one day will be an absolute star. And every so often, even now, it's getting to the point where I'm seeing people popping up on WWE television and being like, I've announced that guy, I've announced that guy, or I've worked with that guy. I've been on a commentary table when they've been there. It's insane. I've commentated on a couple of Uhaa Nation matches, who of course is now Apollo Crews, and there's a few in NXT. Tommaso Ciampa I've commentated on, who's obviously now a massive star.
Yeah, I was going to say he's doing all right for himself.
Yeah, he's doing okay since he defended the Ring of Honor television title at the Cadbury Club in Bourneville. He's done all right for himself since then. Yeah, it's that kind of stuff. And also my favourite anecdote in the world, which was I've been for breakfast at Toby Carvery with Rhino.
That is awesome.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, the man likes an egg.
I was going to say, what were we talking about? Did he go for all the meats? Yorkshire pud?
Yeah.
Bit of gravy?
All the meats.
Bit of veg?
I mean, I don't think a bit of gravy, because it was a breakfast. Bear that in mind. It's
it was a breakfast. Okay.
Yeah, the Toby all-you-can-eat breakfast. But yeah, the man, all the bacon, all the sausage, a fair amount of eggs.
He seems like a friendly chap.
He is. He's such a nice. He's actually genuinely one of the nicest guys that I've met. All the people that come across that you kind of think not necessarily have a bad reputation, but the people that might have the right to have a bit of an attitude about them because they've kind of been there and done that, and they're the guys who have earned your respect. They all tend to be the nicest dudes.
That's cool.
Rhino, an absolutely lovely bloke. One man who actually does come with a reputation, but he's genuinely one of the nicest people I've ever met, is Hardcore Holly.
Oh, really? That's interesting. I recently read his book.
Oh, I love his book. It's great. I read it. Isn't it? Yeah, I read it last year. It's fantastic. But no, he does come with a bit of that reputation of kind of being a hard bastard and having, hazing the young prospects and all this kind of stuff and having the bad attitude or whatever. And none of that is my experience of meeting the man at all.
That's interesting.
Is incredibly just polite, courteous, professional gentleman. Really pleasant to be around. He's genuinely just one of the nicest guys.
Awesome.
Nice.
That's nice. So who is the biggest arsehole?
I couldn't possibly comment. That's my career is not quite worth that yet because I'm still on the way up, I think.
Smart.
One day you can come on here and shoot.
Yes, when everything's gone wrong in 3 years' time, I will come on here and tell you exactly who is a massive wank. At the moment, no.
I love that.
You said about Rhino. You know, he ran for mayor not long ago. Was it last year or something? Somewhere in America. And I like Rhino. You obviously say he's a lovely person. The man does not suit a suit.
No, he doesn't, does he?
No, he doesn't look right in a suit.
He's a literal square.
Yeah, exactly. And he took his tie advice from Vince McMahon, I think, because it was almost as wide as his shirt.
It's not a fashion contest, Jesse, to get into politics.
It is to me.
There's a reason why I have recently sort of transmitted from wearing a full suit in the ring to wearing a suit jacket over a t-shirt. The wider gentleman, as I think it's fair to call myself, does not look good in a suit. And God bless him, Rhino proved that point very, very well.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Like a well-dressed bowling ball.
Obviously, he's a completely different kind of what. Like, I just like pizza too much, whereas he's built like a brick shithouse. But still, yeah, it doesn't suit. It doesn't suit us. No.
Isn't that cool? That's a man who was involved in the match that got you into professional wrestling, right? He comes out to help Edge and Christian at 17.
Exactly. Yeah,
that's awesome.
He was literally. I told him that at the time. I was like, you weren't in the match, but you were a part of the very first wrestling match I ever saw. And yeah, that was surreal to be able to do that.
Yeah, I bet.
Super trip. Actually, I was just going to loop back quickly to so we know how you got into like wrestling in general, but like British wrestling, was that because you went to your first Kamikaze show? How much were you into British wrestling before that kind of first Kami show?
Honestly, I didn't know a huge amount about it for the longest time. I'm trying to think of how the time scale worked. I think I knew vague things, like I'd seen stuff on when the Wrestling Channel was a thing.
Oh, yes.
I miss the Wrestling Channel.
Yes, I saw bits and bobs on there, but I never knew what company I was watching or even what the names of the guys were. I would just kind of have it on in the background while I was at my dad's house because he's the only one that had Sky. So, and because I'd only go and see my dad like once a month, so I'd just every wrestling. So often I'd catch, just one match, just like, I wonder who these guys are. But then, weirdly, the thing that got me into it was being a TNA fan because I didn't have Sky at home and Impact was on free television. Straight after Impact Wrestling on Challenge was a show called Wrestle Talk TV, which ran on TV for years, and I really, really enjoyed it. And they always talked about British wrestling on there as a part of it. Like, their main thing was obviously they'd discuss what was going on in WWE, what's going on in TNA, but then they would talk about these other names and what was happening in British wrestling. And that was where I started getting more interested in it, looking it up online. And then, again, TNA, the British Boot Camp came around. And that really was the first time I got exposed to. I knew of Spud because he's from the local area. Though I actually, I had a friend who knew him. So I didn't really kind of know Spud myself, but he was kind of friend of a friend sort of thing, so I knew who he was. But then seeing Spud and Party Marty as he was at the time, and just seeing a bit more of the British wrestling scene through that was really interesting. How it first really kicked in was I went to a gig in Wolverhampton. I think, if I remember correctly, I was seeing Tenacious D at the Wolverhampton Civic.
Brilliant.
Classic.
Yes. I still have Kyle Gass's guitar pick from that gig. One of my proudest possessions. And there was a poster outside the Wolf Civic for a show that was there the next weekend. A company called AWW in Wolverhampton were running their 10th anniversary show. And the three guys that were on the poster were El Ligero, whose name I had heard on Wrestle Talk TV and whatnot, Doug Williams, who of course had been in TNA, been the X Division champion, all that kind of stuff, and Marty Scurll, who had done on Boot Camp. So I kind of went, well, I've never seen this British wrestling thing before, but I've gotten interested in it. I've Googled it and stuff. I know who all of these three people are on this poster. I'm going to buy a ticket and go.
Fuck yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, best way to do it. And then as...
I like that promotion was called Aw.
Yeah.
A bit of wrestling.
AWW, just wrestling.
And as they say, the rest is history. Now, I do want to get into some music, but I got to quickly ask you, because Jesse, I don't know if you're well aware, but not only has he got National Express fame behind him, but this man was also on the WWE Network recently. Sitting ringside for NXT UK Blackpool. And I just want to know how you found the show, and quickly, who would you want to see get into NXT UK from the British division at the moment?
The one guy, actually, who quite often I pick up, because you've obviously got all the well-known indie-ish names, the guys who can work those particularly technical independent matches that you often see in New Japan and that kind of thing. But the one guy who I think would be perfectly suited to the WWE, and I'd love to see him go there, is Nathan Cruz.
Good shout.
I'm a big fan of Nathan Cruz, the way he carries himself, the way he really portrays his gimmick well, and his old school style, I think would be fantastic for the WWE, and I'd love to see him get there.
Yeah.
The fun fact, actually, this is one of the most unbelievable things that I didn't even realise was happening at the time, and now I look back on it. Nathan Cruz was on that first show I ever went to, you know.
Oh, really?
The AWW show, yeah. On that card, I believe it was the opening match of the second half, Nathan Cruz beat some young Japanese guy nobody had ever heard of called Hiromu Takahashi.
No way.
That's insane.
Yeah. My first ever independent wrestling show at the Wolfram Hall in Wolverhampton, I saw Hiromu Takahashi and had no idea.
That's crazy. That must have been his excursion time, right? Before he...
Yeah, it was. Wow. Yeah, before he kind of broke through. But yeah, Nathan, I think, would be amazing in WWE UK. Apart from that, it's tricky, because there's certain guys who you look at and I'm like, I love you, but I want to see you on the independent scene for a bit longer, not necessarily because they need to improve, but because I want more chances to watch you before you go away.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And it's a difficult thing, because like there's guys that I absolutely love who I'm so happy for them that they're going into NXT UK, and that's the thing, you really can't say anything negative, in my opinion, about the way NXT UK is being handled, because the guys who are on the top level contracts are there because they have earned it. They're incredible professional wrestlers and they deserve the right to be there, and there's no negativity about that whatsoever. But at the same time, it does make me just a tiny bit sad that, like, I know I'm never going to be able to go to like a show down the road and watch Tyler Bate. You know what I mean? Yeah,
it's true. Yeah. Everyone's kind of earned it and stuff. I think Nathan's a solid shout. I agree with that. Now, I do want to talk about music, because you're a big music fan. I only bring up music because we never normally do, but you actually have good taste, which makes me happy. So when we're at shows and stuff, if Colin can get to the sound desk first and put his music on, I'm happy. I'm happy, because then I don't have to deal with the gangster rappy wank that everyone else puts on when they're doing sound. So always appreciate it.
You're the whitest man I've ever met, man.
Yeah, there's no disputing that, is there? And
no, that's right.
Because you've got your own band as well. You've got a gig coming up, a final gig, if I'm not mistaken, in February.
Yes, our final gig, which is also doubling as our first gig in over 2 years. So that shows you how successful we have been as a band. Genuinely, we had some decent success back in the day. We did a couple of UK tours, and we supported a fairly big band called Paint and Pending. We supported them at the O2 Academy. So
nice.
That was quite sweet. But yeah, basically, I actually, believe it or not, I left that band to focus on professional wrestling. But most of us went to Download Festival last year, and while we were hanging out, it just kind of all felt cool. It felt like it was going really well. We were glad to be back together again, but glad to be back as mates and hanging out with one another. And we just kind of went, should we just do one more? Because none of us are really interested in getting back into it as a full-time thing at this point, because we've all got, careers and lives. And the guitarist, for example, I don't know, he might be a dad right now. His missus went into labour.
Right, okay.
So at this point, our guitarist is either a dad or is going to be a dad in the very, very near future.
Congratulations,
awesome.
Future dad.
Yeah, congratulations, guitarist.
Yes, shout out Ben Foy is his name. Shout out Ben for your soon-to-be little one joining the Smart Casual family. But yes, that is us. We are Smart Casual. We're named after the first Kids in Glass Houses album, because it's one of the best pop punk albums of all time. And we came apart a couple of years ago purely because most of us had life getting in the way, and genuinely I left the band because I was like, wrestling's getting pretty cool, I'm going to go and see where this takes me. But we've decided to do a one-off just to celebrate the way Smart Casual was and to leave it on a proper note, because the way it ended at the time was essentially I was leaving the band, so we did a show that was just my last show. But then, rather than carrying on as Smart Casual, which was what they were originally going to do, they all decided that they didn't want to do Smart Casual without me, which I really respected. It was so, like, that was touching, genuinely. And so they formed a new band with a new name and a different singer. So they never played any more Smart Casual songs again or Smart Casual shows again. So there was never a proper goodbye for the band as a whole, because there was a show where we said goodbye to me, but people thought that Smart Casual was still going to carry on. So this is a chance for very few people that did actually bother listening to Smart Casual in the first place. I will point out one of whom is Damien Dunn.
Excellent.
Genuinely, Damien, like, the first time he ever played one of my songs, he said that well, this is the unbelievable story. The first time he ever heard one of our songs was he was in a car going to, I think, an attack show in Wales from Birmingham. Also in that car, sitting in the navigator seat, as it were, the front passengers.
The DJ seat, yeah.
Was Pete. Yeah, the DJ seat, exactly. Pete Dunne was controlling the music, and Pete Dunne said, "Oh, you know, Colin from Kamikaze's in a band." And he looked us up, and I'll be perfectly honest, I think it's possible that Pete was going to play our song so that the lads, because I think everybody in the car, or everybody but one, was somebody who also wrestles regularly for Kamikaze. I think possibly the first time we put the song on was they were going to have a little bit of a laugh and take the piss of it's Colin's little pop punk band or whatever. And then Damien really fucking liked the song. So
backfired Pete in your face.
Exactly, yeah, Pete, you massive star with a WWE UK title. You might be, you know, in this incredible position at a ridiculously young age, but Damien does like that song.
Priority. You guys are going to kill me this evening. The hardest question that people always have to answer then, favourite bands. Who's your Desert Island Disc style bands?
Okay, Frank Turner, number one, always is, always will be. The greatest songwriter on the planet right now, for my money. He just has an incredible way with words. His lyrics appeal to me in a way that I can't even kind of describe. Like, he writes songs that can pick you up when you're down. He writes songs that can make you angry about things you should be angry about. Like, some of his writing is quite political, and it's deservedly so. He has a phenomenal tune called Love, Ire and Song, which was the title track of his second album, that is amazing about kind of the state of the world and protest and stuff. On his most recent album, he had a song called Make America Great Again, and that was not a supporting Donald Trump song. That was very much a Donald Trump should fuck off song. And yeah, he's the best songwriter on the planet right now. I saw him live 2 days ago for the 18th time, and I have his handwriting tattooed on my arm. So that's the level that we're at.
Yeah. And he's great live. One of my favourite nights with you, Jesse, is when we went and saw Frank on New Year's Eve, and there was that Spiegel tent in Gloucester.
Yeah, that was a weird night. You just got back from Canada. You were jet lagged to fuck. You didn't know where you were.
I landed back from Canada, went back to Cheltenham. You knocked on my door and said, "I've got Frank Turner tickets. Come on." I was like, "I'm so tired. I've been on a plane for 12 hours, man." You're like, "Oh, it'll be fine." And you know when you have those kind of almost fever dreams, but we got to Gloucester and there's just this Belgian circus tent set up in the middle of Gloucester where Frank would be playing, and barely anyone was there. 200 people, wasn't it? Just like nothing.
If that. Yeah, tiny.
Top 5 drunkest I've ever been. That could be a top 5 at
that was, I remember losing you later on in the night when we went to someone's house, like, at some point, and then found you just throwing up outside in the back garden. And I thought,
snapped my phone.
And I just went back and enjoyed my night. Yeah.
It's always a good night. It's always a good night when one of your mates can say, "I don't know where the fuck you were." That's how you can tell it was the right time.
Just vanished. But Frank's a solid one. What about on the pop punk scale? What are we looking at here?
The pop punk side of things, which is my real kind of passion for music. That's why I'm in a pop punk band.
Same for us.
Nice. The aforementioned Kids in Glass Houses, gone before their time. They were one of the great, certainly British, I would argue, possibly the best British pop punk band that we've had. They were brilliant. Their third album a bit, but if you ignore that, they were superb. But mostly I tend to like the old school pop punk. Like Newfound Glory are probably my favourite pop punk band. Obviously Blink-182 are incredible. My entrance music in wrestling is Fat Lip by Sum 41.
That's good choice.
Yeah, it works really well, to be fair, because it's got that intro where it drops in perfectly, and it's only, I think it's like 8 bars, and then it drops in, so it's a nice short little intro. It drops in, I go through the curtain, And literally, if you're standing in the crowd at a show that I'm announcing, you can time on your watch to the second when I'm going to come through the curtain.
Yep. Literally to a second. I don't know if you actually saw, speaking about Blink-182, Mark Hoppus and All Time Lows. Yeah, they've got a new band going.
Oh yeah, and who told you that, Max?
You did, Jesse. Literally 2 hours ago.
Another great band, by the way, All Time Low. I know they're not one of the cooler ones to like because they appeal to the fangirl crowd or whatever, but no, All Time Low are genuinely brilliant. I think they're really, really good. Bowling for Soup, actually, those guys have to be mentioned. Bowling for Soup are just so much fun.
Jared's got big, isn't he?
Well, see, I can't talk.
You're not Jared's size though. That's something else.
No, he's he's a big lad, but he's a big lad that can sing, and I appreciate that as a big lad that can kind of sing. So Bowling for Soup are just one of the most fun live bands on the planet. When I saw them, last time I saw them was when they did their tour where they played Drunk Enough to Dance in full.
Nice.
And he's just like, you go to a Bowling for Soup show, you can't help but laugh the entire night because, as well as the music being great, it's like going to a music show and a comedy show at the same time.
They're brilliant. I saw them at Down Low 2007, and on the main stage, right? And they were, slap bang in the middle of all these metal bands. And then you get Bowling for Soup, and they had the crowd in the palm of their hand. And there is no other pop punk band that could have done that with a lineup like that, if you know what I mean. They absolutely killed it. It was awesome.
I don't think there is, but they are absolutely perfect at doing that kind of stuff. They have this wide-ranging appeal because of their personalities and their charisma on stage. You can't help but you could go to a Bowling for Soup show wanting to hate them, and you'd still leave thinking that was fantastic.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and that's what pop punk should be. They should be like fun gigs and stuff. Because I was at the last Slam Dunk in Birmingham, and it was Zebrahead and Goldfinger. That's like the second or third time seeing Zebrahead, and they're another band that is just so much fun and so funny, and just appreciate what they are.
Did I bump into you there at all?
I don't know if I did.
I'm trying to remember seeing you. I spent all day there. I had
in
loads
the car
of
park.
Friends. No, I had loads of friends who were there who were like kind of flitting in and out, so I saw a bit of one mate, a bit of another mate. But you always have that one person at Slam Dunk who you hang with literally the entire day. Like both of you have got exactly the same plans.
Yeah.
So I was at Slam Dunk and I spent all day with the 21st century hero Luke Douglas.
What a hero.
An absolute legend. And I don't remember seeing you there, but no, I had a wonderful time. Medina Lake played their first gig in like 10 years or whatever it was.
Yeah,
man, I'd forgotten about them.
Oh man, it was so good. See, I went to Medina Lake's farewell tour, and I was so sad that they were going. So then, to get to see them one more time, man, my little fanboy heart was very happy.
Yeah.
Awesome. Do you know Medina Lake, Max?
No, I don't think they're like in my rotation.
Oh,
yeah,
come on.
You'd love them.
I know, right? Got to get on it.
What is it? From them through us to you? I think their first album, is that what it's called? It's something like that.
Yeah. So there's twins in the band, aren't there? And they do an American reality show or something to make the money to sort of record their first album.
Yeah, I believe they did. Yeah, there's a pair of twin brothers in the band, and I think you're right. They did some kind of PR stunt or reality TV or something like that, and then recorded the first album using the money from it.
Yeah, fair play to them, man.
Yeah, exactly. It was a solid lineup, people like Say Anything and Frank Carter. It was a great day. I'm annoyed that they've kind of taken away the Birmingham location for next year.
Oh, mate,
and I was like,
so angry.
I'm not going this year. And then they announced like the best ska punk stage ever with like No Effects, Bad Religion, Interrupters. I'm like, oh, fuck it, I'm going.
It's partnered with Fat Records, isn't it? I think this year.
Yeah,
or something like that. Or
it's No Effects. It's they're doing the Punkin' Drublick stage or whatever it's called.
That's it. Yeah. So that's a great album, Punkin' Drublick.
Gotta do it. Well, I know we've got to let you shoot off, so let's get to the plugging stage of things. When's the next time that people can see you at a wrestling show, first of all?
Next time people can see me is the 2nd of February, which is Kamikaze Pro Underground 6 at the Empire in Coventry. Main event is Speedball Mike Bailey going one-on-one with Sergeant Suplex Millie McKenzie, representing the Anti-Fun Police as one of the Kamikaze Pro Tag Team Champions, also on an incredible lineup. We did have the Anti-Fun Police versus CCK, so we had Chief Deputy Dunn, and Los Federalos Santos Jr. versus Chris Brooks and Kid Lykos. Obviously, for those who are following it, Kid Lykos very sadly has hurt his shoulder I believe he dislocated his shoulder at a Progress show over the weekend.
Yeah.
We're currently working on that situation. There will still be a tag team championship match.
Lycos gets no luck, does he, man?
Mate, I feel so. The thing is with him as well, because I've known Lycos since before he was Lycos, and he's such a fucking nice dude.
Yeah,
it's horrible to see it happen to. Honestly, like, to see a wrestler go down injured once is rubbish, but to see somebody out so many times like this, I really feel horrible for him, and I just hope that this time when he comes back, and he will, and I believe that he will, this time when he comes back, it's back for good.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he deserves it, man. There's no God when you look at Lycos.
Yeah. Yeah. So the tag titles will be on the line, and also loads of other incredible matches. Go to our facebook.com/Kamikaze Pro UK, and you can find it all there.
Exactly. I know there's a lot of you in the West Midlands area who tune into this. So if you've not been to a Cami Coventry show, they're one of the. I love that venue, and I love Kamikaze, as you all well know, but there's something about the Coventry shows that just give it that special feel, and I'm glad they're going to be kind of the mainstay going through 2019. So get tickets and go and check it out.
And it gives us a chance as well to kind of use guys that we wouldn't necessarily use. Like, I love very dearly Jimmy Havoc. He's one of my favourite wrestlers on the planet. Doesn't matter, if they're signed or independent or whatever. Jimmy's one of my favourites. I couldn't really see Jimmy Havoc doing that well at like the Collingwood Centre in Great Bar. It's just not, particularly considering that's literally a church.
Yeah.
It's not the place for him. So the Empire gives us a chance to spread out and use more guys and use people who wrestle a different style. Just today, I'm going to give you not an exclusive, because I don't think I'm allowed to reveal this yet, but I'm going to give you a little teaser that you can give to all of your listeners, because I know you do have listeners in the West Midlands, particularly on the West Midlands scene. Today, I have signed a deal as the Kamikaze Pro General Manager to bring back somebody who we have not seen in a long time, and I think they're someone who's going to fit in very well at the Empire shows. Stay tuned for more information, and maybe come and see us on March 24th.
Ooh, that's a sultry tease. I like that one.
Yes.
I'm putting my bet in early with The Rock.
Yeah, I've got his number, man. I've got his number.
Yeah, it's been a while since he was in Kamikaze.
It's been a long time since The Rock turned up, but on March 24th, finally, The Rock. No.
Oh, excellent! Yeah, Kamikaze on the 2nd. That's going to be great. And you know what? You got your band coming up. Tell people where they can get tickets for your sultry singing voice.
Oh yeah. Yeah, if you would like to come and see us, and please do, because apart from anything else, I'm going to hold my hands up and be completely honest. This was a bit of a gamble for us. We decided to promote this show ourselves, so we don't have a promoter, we don't have an agent or anything working on the show. It's literally just us. We are running the show. So therefore, if we sell tickets, we take home all the profit. If we don't sell tickets, we have to pay for the show. So please come and see Smart Casual. We are on February the 23rd. We're at the Flapper in Birmingham, which is the best small music venue in the world. It is the best. I love it in there. We're playing in there, celebrating not only us getting back together for one-off, but also celebrating the fact that the Flapper was saved from closure last year.
Yes.
Because the Flapper was nearly closed down and then got saved. So yeah, we're celebrating that. We're giving it up for that. Tickets, to be honest, the easiest thing to do, if you go to our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Smart Casual Official, all one word, either message that page or just add me on Facebook. I'm available through there, and message me directly, because I have physical tickets and I will come and put that ticket in your hand in exchange for the paltry amount of £6.
Bargain.
£6 a ticket. Bargain. Come and see it. Max, you're coming, aren't you?
Yes. Well, hell yeah.
There you go.
I'm going to annoy Damien Dunn if he's in the crowd.
Oh, fantastic. I'm hoping that he genuinely said that he might try, although I'm slightly concerned that although Damien Dunn isn't on, a gentleman by the name of Damien Weir might have to turn up at NXT UK in Coventry on the same night. So if he does, that'll be a bit annoying, yeah.
We'll keep
bloody Triple H.
Well, we see where his loyalties lie. Selfish.
Yeah, bastard. How dare you? But yeah, please do come and support the show. And even if you can't make it to the show or anything, if you go to facebook.com/Smart Casual Official, there's a link to our SoundCloud on there. Listen to our music. Our first EP, Square Peg, is also available on Spotify, so search for Smart Casual Square Peg. Have a listen to that. Listen to Festival Girl, because that is Damien Dunn's favourite song.
There we go. And Pete Dunn's favourite song, because he put it on.
And Pete. Yes, there you go.
Mate, this has been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I wish we had kind of more time. If you want to come on again, we'd be more than happy to have you to talk some more wrestling, some more music and whatnot. So thank you very much.
Honestly, I would love to. I don't feel like I've given you guys enough here, because there's so much more that I want to talk about myself. And I'm sorry I have to shoot off, but thank you so much for having me, and definitely I'd love to come back.
It's going to be
also,
part
it's
2.
been good to meet your voice, man, and it'll be nice to meet you in person one day. I'm sure we will.
Yeah, I need to take you to a Cammy show, Jesse. I've never taken you to one, so...
pull your finger out your ass.
I mean, either that, or you could bring him to see Smart Casual on February the 23rd.
Let's just make a month of it.
Plugs everywhere.
All right, buddy. All the best, and I'll catch up with you soon at a show, I'm sure.
I will definitely see you soon. I hope you're feeling well, by the way, because I think the last time I saw you in person, you were on your way to the hospital.
You were loading me into the back of a car, which, thank you very much, by the way. Colin was very nice to offer to let me crash at his house if I got stuck in Birmingham, so appreciated that, mate. But yeah.
Nice. He's got the vibe of a man that helps the weak.
But yeah, I'm recovering well. Cheers, mate.
Brilliant. I'm glad to hear it. I think we should leave it on that joke, because that was phenomenal. I really enjoyed that. So yeah, thank you guys so much, and it's been an absolute pleasure. Hopefully I'll see you guys again.
Later.
Nice one, Colin. Thanks, mate.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Are you ready?
Oh, hell yeah.
You fans can stick it, brother.
Who's your daddy, Montreal?
Tell me he didn't just say that.
Wunderbar. Well, that was enjoyable, wasn't it, Jesse?
It was lovely. Colin seems like a lovely, lovely man.
He does.
And a very good commentator and announcer.
Yes.
And singer. He's a multi-talented, beautiful person.
He's a triple threat. And yeah, I feel like he was a little bit gutted that he didn't get to do a top 5. Did you notice that thing at the end?
You just signed him off. I was going to go like, right, what's your top 5 wrestlers quickly? And you just went, no, bye.
Well,
so
I knew he had to.
That's your fault. Shut up.
I knew he had to be gone dead on this time, so I didn't want to. You know how long top 5s take for the inexperienced, the uninitiated.
This is true. We need to, people need to get with the program. I'm sure Colin would have been fine though. But yeah, next time we'll get him on again soon.
We're gonna have one again, and we're gonna berate him with top 5s next time.
Awesome. I like that.
Love it. Let's do a top 5. But do you have anything that you want to add first, Jesse?
Yeah, sorry. I was just getting a bit distracted there because I was looking in front of me and looking at my beautiful Monkey Banana microphone that I'm currently speaking into. Mine is white. Yours is red, I believe. And they are the best podcasting microphones you can get. They're also super cheap. They're like £60, I think, on Amazon currently. You can find them on Amazon. You can find them on monkey-banana.de, as well as podcasting microphones. They do studio monitors if you're in a band like Colin. And they're just generally a fantastic company. So go look at Monkey Banana, you idiots.
Beautiful up until the end. But well done.
Oh, sorry.
Right, so we are doing a top 5 this week, voted for by the people. So if you don't listen to this, you're idiots, as Jesse said previously. And it's top 5.
You know, idiots, really. The only ones that aren't idiots are the ones that buy Monkey Banana. That's what I say.
Hey. So we didn't buy them, we got them for free. What does that make us?
Shut up.
So we're doing top 5 commentators, which does sound boring, and I thought it was going to be really boring, but when I was doing my research, actually quite fun. Yeah, actually.
Awesome, brilliant. Well,
I've got some good facts and some interesting things to say, and do you want to know what our crossover sound is this week? I'm going to set up first. Vincent McMahon's commentary, listen to the cadence of his voice for how excited he gets about Shawn Michaels' entrance music.
Shawn Michaels dancing on the roof in your house from Louisville, Kentucky.
From Louisville, Kentucky.
It's brilliant. I found that and showed that to you. Yeah, another thing I'm responsible for because I'm brilliant.
In your house against Owen Hart.
In your house against Owen Hart. Owen Hart managed by Jim Cornette at the time. And
yes.
It's great because Vince being on commentary gives you a real... and the way he reacts to wrestlers gives you a real indication of who he's pushing to get over, right? Because he's the man who's in charge of everything. So when he talks like that, when someone comes out, like Shawn Michaels, you can tell that Shawn Michaels is going to be a star.
One of my top fives later on, because I'll forget by the time we get to it. He's doing commentary with one of my picks, and there's this referee who's like 50 pounds past obese, and he just can't get down to the mat to count. You can just hear Vince going, "Why is he so slow? Why is he out of position? He's so slow." I never saw that referee again after that match.
Wow. Well, apparently,
Damn,
you know they've got a cough button, all the commentators, so they can basically mute themselves if they need to cough or sneeze or whatever.
I need that tonight.
Hey?
I need that tonight.
Yeah, right. Invest. But I'll get onto the monkey banana, guys. But Vince has that, and apparently when he was on commentary, I've heard like interviews with other people in the back, like Bruce Pritchard and people like that. He would just like put the cough mic on, scream at everything that was going wrong in the ring to the people backstage and the referee and stuff, and then just put it on and carry on his jovial commentary, which I really like the image of.
I like that as well. So you will hear Vince McMahon's cadence throughout the show. If we have any crossovers whatsoever, Jesse's adamant that we're going to go 4 for 5. I'm only feeling 2, but what do I know? What do I know?
What do you know? Maybe we'll meet in the middle with a nice round hat trick.
Loving it. Who wants to go first? Would you? Do you want to do it? Because I took your intro away from you.
Yes, I do.
Brilliant.
All right, I'm going to go first. And this one, I think, might be a crossover with you, but and it's not a very popular one with your average wrestling fan, but it's part of our golden era. You and me both love this era, and I think incredibly underrated is Taz.
Shawn Michaels dancing on the roof in your house, from Louisville,
Kentucky! Yes! I knew it! They're right, we're now on number 1.
We're going 5 for 5.
I'm telling you. You reckon so? Is that one you didn't think I'd have?
No, I didn't. I didn't think you'd kind of put that one in. But I was speaking to Colin before you came on, and we were just shooting the shit as the cool kids do. And
I turn up whatever the fuck I want.
And he was saying how much he loves Taz and how underrated Taz is. So maybe this isn't a minority. Maybe it's a vast majority.
Yeah, maybe. You just never hear him brought up anymore as a fantastic commentator. And he was, when in a period when SmackDown was absolutely awesome as well. So I don't see why he's so overlooked.
Yeah, completely.
Even Michael Cole was good back then. Michael Cole was good with Taz.
Yeah, they fed off each other, and Taz somehow made him not seem like a massive nerd.
Well, it's because, like what Colin was saying about him and Damien Dunn and how all of Damien Dunn's comedy is at his expense. And in many ways, I think a lot of mine is to you as well.
Yep.
And Taz would be like that with Michael Cole. He would call Michael Cole on, when Michael Cole would say stupid things or nerdy things, Taz would call him on it. And now, Michael Cole just does it and no one calls him on it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, Michael Cole as alpha is not good.
Oh, God, he's the most beta man I've ever seen in my life.
I've literally written on my notes here, I love Taz as a commentator, and I know this might be controversial because I know others didn't like him, so I was the same mindset as you.
Look at that! We're like twins with the Ant and Dec of wrestling, I've told you this.
So many times.
Tell me why you like Taz.
I always liked the way he shut the fuck up. I always liked the way he would explain moves in a very intelligent way. So I always remember WrestleMania 20 when Kurt Angle's been working on Eddie's leg for so long, and then at the finish of the match, Eddie starts undoing his laces, and to Taz's brilliant credit, he goes, Eddie's ankle must be swelling up like hell, that's why he's undoing his laces to relieve the pressure. And then it leads to the obvious finish of when Kurt comes in, grabs the ankle, kicks the boot off, does the roll up and gets the win. And just that little explanation as to why Eddie was doing it is genius.
It's awesome. It's like they used to get Mike Tenay in for the cruiserweight matches on Nitro. And that was awesome because it felt like, because cruiserweight, you know, these Japanese and Mexican wrestlers and stuff that hadn't really been seen on American telly before, this was like 96, you'd get Mike Tenay in, who was sort of framed as this expert on cruiserweight wrestling and knew them all and would talk about the history of the wrestlers and the moves that you weren't seeing on American telly in other matches. And Taz had that vibe about him with his sort of, you know, he's a former wrestler. He had this sort of shoot gimmick when he was a wrestler, so you could believe him when he talks in detail about all the moves and stuff. But unlike Mike Tenay, sorry Mike, Taz has the added comedy chops and was very good at that as well.
Yes, completely. And also, you and me, I think, were speaking about this the other day when Brock comes out and you get the, well, here comes the pain.
Here comes the pain. It's the best, man. Honestly, I was watching an old SmackDown last weekend. I messaged you because it was Saturday morning. I had nothing to do. And I used to watch all my wrestling on a Saturday morning when I was a kid. It was always SmackDown on Sky, Saturday mornings. That was wrestling to me. So I thought, fuck it, I'm going to put on a 2002, 2003 SmackDown on Saturday morning and just sit in my pants and enjoy it and pretend I'm a child again. And it was awesome. Yeah, and when Lesnar came out and I heard that, well, here comes the pain, it just added such a extra. I don't know why did it add so much, just saying that, but it really did. It just added an extra layer to Brock Lesnar. It was awesome. And
he always used to sell when, say for example, he'd pick up the Big Show, and obviously as a kid that was an insane thing to kind of see and do, but the way Taz kind of sold it was like the most brilliant feat a human being has ever performed in their life. Like, it's 500 pounds. And you're like, holy shit, that's insane.
It's awesome. And with it, this was obviously a diva, quite sexualized diva era. But Taz always would, with Sable or Tori Wilson or whatever, he'd be, I don't know how to word it really, he'd be pervy, but not in a sort of facetious, jokey,
not in a king
funny,
way,
like a childish way. Exactly, not in a King way, which hasn't aged well at all. When you go back and listen to King now from the early 2000s, it's horrendous. But in our sort of awoken lady era, but Taz, you can go back and listen to him, and it's fine because there's a level of innocence to it, and it's quite sweet, really. And you do have Michael Cole playing off him. Sort of agreeing and laughing along, which sort of I think works more than JR just looking at King like he's a bit of shit on his shoe. Yeah,
exactly. It's very difficult to kind of pinpoint Taz in just what he brought. Just as we said, the believability, the comedy, he had it all, and the fact that he's not really remembered is a shame because he was there in such, as you said, a prime time for SmackDown, and especially for when we were growing up. It's something that I remember, super vividly.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's quite cool as well that as a wrestler, he was a very, very serious character as a wrestler. And so no one really knew that he had this in him. And it's just cool that he showed that comedy after he had to retire. Much like Nigel McGuinness in many ways. He was a very serious gimmick wrestler. And he's managed to show everyone through his commentary work that he's actually quite a funny chap as well.
Yeah, completely.
Toads, have you watched the Nigel McGuinness documentary on the WWE Network yet?
No, not yet.
Get on with it, it's really good.
Yes, boss.
Good.
I know a lot of people have said similar as well. Right, so my number 4, and I'll be interested if you do have this one, the voice of Jesse Ventura.
Oh, he so nearly made my list, but he actually didn't.
See, I knew we wouldn't go 5 for 5. It's never happened. It never will happen.
It's never. But I didn't say we'd go 5 for 5. We're going to go 4 for 5, brother. So this is the one that we don't have, and I reckon my number 4 is the only one on my list that you don't have.
Bring it. So the voice of Ventura is probably one of my favourite commentary voices, without a doubt.
Oh, Rilla.
That was really good. Well done. And as I mentioned before, this
from
was
one Jesse to another.
The partnership between Ventura and McMahon makes any match entertaining. They're like an old married couple when they used to kind of talk and stuff. It was absolutely brilliant. And the match I was talking about, I was watching, was between Coco Beware and Frenchie Martin. Do you remember Frenchie Martin?
No, who's Frenchie Martin?
No one does. It's fine. No.
I remember Coco Beware.
Yeah.
And his parrot.
This is not an exciting match.
Have I told you about his parrot? Have I told you about Coco Beware and his parrot?
I don't know. I don't think so.
So Coco Beware's house burned down, right? And they're all out at the time, him and his family. But when they got home, so the house on fire, the fire brigade's there, they're hosing it and stuff. The fireman rushes up to him and goes, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." And he goes, "Oh God, no, that's okay, but we're all safe." And he went, "No, one of your children was stuck in there, and I don't think we've got to him in time because we could hear him shouting, but there's no noise anymore. He must be dead." And they went, "What? But all my kids are here." And it was the parrot, man. The parrot was screaming for help in the house.
What?
Yes, the parrot was screaming for help, and all the fire people thought it was one of his kids.
That's dark. That's like Ace Ventura.
Help!
Now I'm just picturing Aladdin.
Yarko.
Yeah.
He is on fire at one bit in Aladdin, isn't he?
Exactly. I'm picturing the same screams. But Coco...
Yeah, but so that's the legend.
I like that little fact you dropped in there. But Coco Beware and Frenchie Martin, the match is not exciting at all. In fact, the crowd just start chanting boring. But it's the greatest commentary.
This must have been in the 80s or early 90s.
Yeah.
And they're chanting boring. That's horrendous.
I know, right? But I absolutely love the commentary between Ventura and McMahon. It's like the funniest shit I've ever heard in my life. Just I'll upload it onto Twitter later so everyone can hear it, what I mean. But it's just from start to finish, and especially when Vince gets annoyed at the fat referee for not doing his job properly, it's fantastic. And Jesse Ventura has always just had that kind of gravitas to him that you just listen to everything he said, and he's one of my favorite voices. I found some two interesting facts about Ventura that I don't know if you'll know about. So,
does one of them involve Minnesota?
It does not. Actually, yes, it does. The first one does.
No, there you go.
So he wasn't making a great money for most of the 70s, so he moonlit as a security guard, and his bodyguard duties included keeping an eye on the Rolling Stones for several of their tours in the late 70s and early 80s. When he did become governor of Minnesota, Ventura's first proclamation as governor was in February 99, and he declared it Rolling Stones Day in Minnesota, and he got to meet Keith Richards. He told Keith Richards that he previously acted as bodyguard, and Richards' response was, "You bodyguarded for us in 81, and now you're the governor. Fucking great country, mate." And I was like, that's brilliant. And the second fact, which I didn't realise was the reason he left WF, and the most random reason for leaving the WF, there was a 16-bit console war that was happening, and this was responsible for Ventura leaving. So it was a war between Nintendo and Sega during the early 90s, and apparently
Sega does what Nintendo. That was their advertising.
That was their. That is bitter then. That is.
It's good, isn't it? Sega does what Nintendo don't.
I like that. And it led to the breakup of the commentary team, because during the early 90s, WF had a deal with Acclaim, but mostly focused on releasing games for Nintendo platforms. Jesse managed to line up his own deal for a game on the Sega Genesis. When Vince told Jesse the Genesis game wouldn't fly, Jesse told him to cram it with walnuts and quit the company. And unfortunately for Ventura, it was somewhat of a hollow victory, as his Genesis game never materialized, and it did exist in some form. In recent years, it's been discovered through screenshots and stuff, and it was going to be called Jesse the Body Ventura Wrestling Superstars, but little was known about the game, and it caused him to leave the WF. Mad that, right?
Someone has got a ROM of that somewhere. A developer, an old game developer from the 90s or something.
And you want it.
Someone has that, and I want it.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's got to have that. The games pop up all the time, man. There's like this lost Sonic game that popped up just a couple of weeks ago from the Genesis era that has suddenly appeared online, and people have found it. This game is going to appear one day, and I, for one, can't wait.
Yeah, Jesse's in a bit of a old school gaming collecting mood at the moment, so I probably shouldn't have told you that story.
I've spent so much money, Max.
So much money.
So much.
You came down to Brighton. First thing he did was we had to go to a retro game shop so we could find Mega Drive games.
I will suck for Sega.
What was my one rule? Oh, beautiful. What's your...
Oh, you're making me cough.
There we go.
My number 4... Oh, another thing about Jesse Ventura before we move on. A thing I always appreciated about him, whenever the champion came out first, he would always call it, which I agree with. He would always, the champion should never come out first, Gorilla. And it's true. And I hate it when champions come out first. They should always be the last entrant to the ring.
Yeah. You've installed that in me as well. I never used to really notice. Now it drives me absolutely batshit.
Yeah, New Japan are good at it. Their champion always comes out second. Yeah. But, WE have not. The last Wrestle Kingdom, they didn't. Did you notice that they didn't do the, just before the IWGP Heavyweight title match, they normally do that graphic where they show every former champion. They didn't do it this year. That's like one of my favourite bits of New Japan.
Yeah, apparently that's come from Harold Mage himself, where he wants to get rid of that. And
hey, Harold, shove it up your ass!
But you're right, it was so cool to see, like, everyone's that come previously. I wish WWE would do it, but then you have to see, like, Jinder, and we'd all rather forget.
Yeah, you have to see. And I suppose you wouldn't have to see Benoit, because they don't really have the world title anymore, do they? So they would just do the WWE champions, I suppose.
Yeah, which has been like 50 people.
Yeah, 50. No, it is just 50, isn't it? 50 different people, because Jinder was the 50th person to be WWE champion.
Yeah.
And AJ Styles had been before and after, and Daniel Bryan's obviously been before and after. Yeah, very good. My number 4, which is the one I don't think will be on your list, is the voice of WCW, Tony Schiavone.
Shawn Michaels dancing on the roof in your house live from Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh my God.
My number 3, baby.
Really?
So I'm glad you're
How do
going
you
down
say
in
his
order.
surname?
Tony Schiavone.
Schiavone. I completely brain farted just
It's
then.
when you read it.
Could you tell?
Yeah, no, I do the same because, like, I know it as, if I don't look at it, I know it's Tony Schiavone was, like, the voice of WCW. But when you read it, you go, Schiavone?
Schiavone. I was I was messaging you earlier, wasn't I? Because I'm going to Amsterdam next week, so I was trying to brush up on my Dutch. I was like, okay, what's hello? Hello.
Hello.
Okay, cool. This is easy. And then I looked at please, and I was like, oh, this won't be as easy as I thought, because please looks like a stroke victim has just punched the keyboard. Anyway, yeah, cool. I'm surprised he's on your list, because you're not much of a WCW one.
Well, you forget it was, like, my childhood WCW. You know, you know, when I used to watch as a kid on old Channel 5, Tony Schiavone was the voice I associated with wrestling. He was, for those who don't know, he was the JR of WCW. He was
very much so.
the moment man.
Yeah, he was. And I didn't appreciate him as a kid at all. And it's actually, in fact, he annoyed me a bit when I was a kid. And it's only been since I've been rewatching WCW as a grown-up, you know, since the network came out in the last few years, and I've been going back on old Nitros and stuff, which has been, without exaggeration, one of the best things I've ever done with my adult life. I realised the genius of Tony Schiavone. He just sort of exudes this sort of authority when he's talking, and his play-by-play is just so good. And yeah, very underrated, because obviously he was a WCW man who didn't come over to WE, so they're the people that the WWE don't talk about. But it's a shame, because he's awesome.
He was no nonsense. He was a straight man approach, clear dictation. It was everything you needed in a commentary man. I didn't realise
part of his. Sorry, go on.
I didn't realise he was. He did have a stint in WF before he joined WCW for a year, and then they let him go.
I didn't know that either. I feel like I've seen footage of it actually in like the Monday Night Wars docs on the network and stuff. I think they touch on it slightly there. But I certainly wasn't watching WWF when Tony Schiavone was involved. But the best, you first. What's your favourite Tony Schiavone commentary moment?
Well, I was going to talk about, in my notes, the most famous Schiavone moment with Foley.
Yeah, okay. I mean, yeah, that's a sort of foot-in-mouth moment, isn't it?
Well, this is what I was going to mention, because, so, for those who don't know, WCW was beating WF in the ratings wars, the Monday Night Wars at the time, and Raw was on a pre-tape, so WCW knew, and a tactic that Bischoff used to do was to tell commentators to tell them the finishes. So that night, after they'd been losing for weeks and weeks and weeks, Schiavone gave away that in their main event tonight, don't change the channel to our competitors, because Mick Foley's going to win their world title. That's going to put some butts in seats. And so Foley learned about this, phoned Schiavone to talk about it, and it's really hard saying his name over and over again. He called Foley back, and he told Foley that Bischoff had ordered him to reveal the title win over the air, and as we will now know famously, it backfired. Immediately after he said that, spoiled the title win. 600,000 households switched from Nitro to Raw to watch Foley win the title, and this gave WF the ratings win for the night with a 5.7 to Nitro's 5.0. WCW's ratings never saw more than a 5 going head-to-head with Raw again, and then they sank below 5, eventually down to 3, and eventually, as we all know, the end of WCW. And this is always the pinpoint iconic moment.
In WWF's narrative, it certainly is. Yeah. No, it's true, and it's a shame. My favourite bit about that is you missed out when he talks about. He says, "Oh, Mankind who wrestled here as Cactus Jack wins their title." He says how he started. He says, "Over at the World Whining Federation." which I like. And also, I watched a Nitro that was on just before one of their World War IIIs. I never understood that, by the way, when I was a kid. Surely the first one's World War III, and then the next one, the next year, should be World War IV, and you should go up like that. But it was one of their World War IIIs, and it was on in January. The whole point of their World War IIIs was to outdo Royal Rumble, and Tony Schiavone says on commentary, if you're even considering watching that Royal Fumble. So he was good at his dad joke puns. I really enjoyed that.
He was. They were appreciated. What's your favourite call, Dan, from Schiavone?
My favourite call from Schiavone is when the night that Hulk Hogan turned heel and joined the NWO. And then Hogan does his talk in the ring with Mean Gene. Look at all that crap in this ring and all that. And then when the show, how he signs the show off, how Tony Schiavone signs the show off, how it goes off air. The camera is on them. Tony Schiavone, Bobby Heenan, and there was someone else at the table. I can't remember who it was. Dusty Rhodes, I think. They're all just sitting there, and Tony Schiavone just plays it perfectly because he's at a loss for words. It's such a massive thing that Hogan has turned heel, and he just goes, well, just gives up. He said, well, from all of us, this was WCW. Hulk Hogan, you can go to hell. Hulk Hogan, you can go to hell. And it's just done so seriously, and he just sort of just shrugs, and and he's like, it's inferred, like, there's nothing worth. Why am I doing this shit? There's nothing worth fighting for anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like, the worst has happened. And it's just, watch it if you can't remember it, or if you've never seen it, because it's brilliant. Just the end, just the last 30 seconds of that show is brilliant. Just the way he plays it is amazing.
Nice, I like that. This is a weird fact I didn't know about him. After WCW and the war, I always like saying after the war, because it makes it sound, for people who don't know wrestling, it's just like,
you weren't
there, man. You didn't live through it. So after the war, he went and worked at Starbucks. Like, not even as like a manager, just a barista, cleaning the floors. Like, this is right after WCW closed their doors. And there's an interview with him where he said, I started working for Starbucks because I had some extra time, not because I was desperate and needed money, but I love Starbucks and I had extra time on my hands, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot. And I did it for 15 months and thoroughly enjoyed it. And what the hell, why not?
Yeah, totally.
But imagine, just like after the war, and you're a wrestling fan, and you go in and get a pumpkin spice latte of Tony Schiavone, and he, in that voice.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. What's the name of the wrestler? I've completely blanked his name. He was he was famous in ECW he came in as the NWA champion and like threw the belt on the floor, or like stamped on the belt and said it meant nothing. Who am I thinking of?
I always hate when people do this to me, because like, I can't think of it, and then all knowledge in my head immediately goes, you're fucked, you're not going to help anyone.
Shane Douglas. Remember Shane Douglas?
I do remember Shane Douglas.
After his wrestling career ended, he went and worked in Walmart.
Nice.
Yeah, which is good, isn't it? He's very much a real life Mickey Rourke wrestler character, sort of working that day job and doing those indies and being loved on those indie shows, but then going back to Walmart and being sad.
Oh, now I'm just thinking of the wrestler. You know what my favourite bit in that movie is?
I need to watch that, man. I need to watch that again. I haven't seen that for a few years.
And we've been speaking about Marissa Tomei quite a lot this week, so...
Marissa Tomei is so hot, it's not even a joke.
Right. But my favourite moment of that whole movie is when he's walking around the back of, like, the Walmart, the deli counter, wherever he works and stuff, and they pipe in the crowd, and he's, like, getting warmed up. And he goes through, like, the curtain into the back of their stock room, and he steps through the curtain, and the music just cuts off. The cheering.
Yeah,
he's alone, and I'm like, I fucking love that movie so much.
That is awesome, and so many cameos. Like Cesaro's in it, R-Truth's in it.
Yeah.
All these sort of loads of faces that you wouldn't have necessarily known watching the wrestler back in 2007 or whenever the hell it came out, but you would definitely know now. Cesaro with long hair, I think. Jumping back to Tony Schiavone before we move on. Have you listened to his podcast?
No, I was going to bring that up actually.
So he has a podcast with Conrad, who does podcasts with everyone in the world.
Yep, selfish bitch.
He's, fair play to him. Yeah. And he's married to a Flair daughter. Not that one. And, the show with Tony Schiavone is really funny because you say about that voice, and he's still got that voice. He sounds exactly the same, but like he's swearing and stuff, and that voice doesn't suit swears.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, you know him so much for so many years as kind of like a respected announcer.
Yeah.
It'd just be weird.
And also he doesn't remember. So Bruce Pritchard, when Conrad does his show with Bruce Pritchard has the good grace to, if he doesn't remember something, he'll bullshit or make something up or something like that. Tony Schiavone, Conrad will ask him this really deep, interesting question about a really important moment in WCW, and Tony Schiavone's just like, yeah, I can't remember. I've got no memory of that. And they're like, okay, we just move on.
Brilliant. I like that.
It was good.
Okay. My number 2, flying through this one, which is good because we had a long interview.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's good. This is a good paced show. I like it. I'm feeling good today. Can you tell?
Yeah, you're in a perky one.
We're in high spirits. Maybe this will get the listeners back.
Yeah, bitches. Don't like our adverts at the start. I'm not bitter. It's fine.
That's fine. That's why we seamlessly threw them in the middle. No one even noticed. People are buying Monkey Banana stuff and subscribing to Fight TV and not even knowing why. Like we subliminally got in their head. Sorry, Power Slam TV. No, Fight's someone else. You can edit that. Listening to they're subscribing to Power Slam TV.
You fucked it. It's all good.
No, do it in post. Oh, we can say goodbye to them.
It was nice while it lasted. My number 2 is one of my absolute favourite commentators. Actually, no. Scratch that. My favourite commentator at the moment working today is the sexy-voiced Mauro Ranallo.
Excellent shout, and not on my list.
Yes. That's all I care about.
So I'm going with 3. It's going to be 3 then. Like I said, it's going to be a nice hat.
Nice hat trick in the middle. Yeah, you're confident on number 1, Irie. It's like when we did cruiserweights and you can't name anyone but Rey Mysterio as number 1.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just standard. So,
Rey Mysterio. Sorry, I know we don't like to talk about stuff that's happening right now that much because we don't like to date the shows. But Rey Mysterio against Andre Cien Almas on SmackDown last week. The dude, did you see that move he did when he slid out the ring under the bottom rope and then basically hit a sunset flip powerbomb on Andre Cien Almas on the outside by sliding out the ring? The dude's in the twilight of his career. He's been wrestling since before or around the same time we were born, and he's still busting out shit like that I've never seen anyone do before.
He's made a deal with the devil somewhere along the line because the Rey Mysterio I saw who left WWE and the one that's come back is not the same person. He's in the best shape of his life. He's doing shit I've never seen before. Someone did a side-by-side of where he does this step up onto the middle rope, plancha over into the Hurricane Head Scissors, which he did against Psychosis, and then they put it when he did it with Andrade, and they're almost identical.
Man, how can anyone not appreciate Rey Mysterio? I know everyone goes on about Chris Jericho and stuff because of, his longevity and stuff and how he's changed himself. Ray hasn't needed to change himself, and he's just remained this absolute staple in wrestling, and it'll be a sad day when he retires, but it's so cool that he's just as good as he ever was.
Yeah.
What a dude. I love him.
He hasn't toned down, and I'm loving the idea of him and Andrade working together and Andrade being built up as the next Latina star. They're just fantastic together. The 2 out of 3 Falls match was unbelievable, and this was all given away on SmackDown.
Yeah, so good. Is Ray going to be in the Rumble, or has he got a Rumble match? I can't remember.
No, he's in the Rumble.
Good. Yeah, he'll have a good show in there, I think.
Yeah, I want to see him and Andrade as 1 and 2. Give us another little tease going into, and then fuck it, give him a Mania. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, man. God, Ray, we love you.
I know. But more.
Sorry, as you
Ranallo. Is another one where I know his name, I say it every single week, but if you read it, it throws you off.
More Ranallo. Yeah, I know what you mean. Mario.
So he's the lead announcer on NXT, as everyone knows, and he's considered amongst everyone as one of the best announcers in a very, very long time. And he is, drawing from his experience in MMA, he just does the best job. Like we were saying with Taz earlier, he puts integrity into the wrestling. He'll make you believe anything that's happening in that ring, and he'll get you just as pumped. for a normal kind of match, but you'll be on the edge of your seat if Ronaldo's on his game for TakeOver, which he is every single time. And his hype levels. Have you ever watched the ones where they do they like GoPro at the announce tables and they just film Ronaldo getting invested into it?
Oh man, you need, if you like them, you need to watch this Nigel McGuinness documentary on the network.
Done. Are you getting paid or something?
No, there's a great moment of that. No, sorry, it's just really good. Well, I love Nigel. I've always loved Nigel McGuinness. He's awesome as a wrestler and a commentator and a person. He's just a man. He was dealt a shit hand in his career, but was still amazing. And I think they just do a really nice job of covering his career. It's worth watching.
Yeah,
please do.
But the videos of Ronaldo when he's just getting so invested and like screaming, watching at the monitor and stuff, and it happened to me. So I was at the NXT at the Royal Albert Hall when they were doing the filming and stuff, and I was right above commentary, so I looked down and I could see commentary. For one match, I ended up just watching him. He was just like bouncing up and down in his seat non-stop, and right before the cameras went live, he was just doing this little dance and just dicking with Nigel and just kept dancing, and then went live and he was like, "Welcome to NXT," like immediately, and I was like,
"True,
I love you for that, I really do."
Yeah.
And as I said, at takeovers, he gives a big fight feel. I don't know if it's the voice or what it is, but every match has a big fight feel about it.
I think it's the voice and the knowledge. Like we were saying about Taz, you can Mauro Ranallo knows his shit. He knows all the moves. He knows exactly what all the moves are called. He's done his research on every wrestler on the card and knows their history. And that combined with his awesome sportscaster style voice just makes for a much better show.
Yeah, and you can tell he's a fan and always was. I didn't know that he used to do commentary like back in college and stuff, and worked for a couple of promotions around Canada before he went into kind of like the MMA and all that kind of background, the journalist side of things, and the MMA commentary. He's always been a fan of wrestling, and that shows in the way he talks. Like, you can hire a guy
100%.
who's a journalist, but I do think you need an absolute passion to get into it, like purely. And he's also a great role model for people who suffer from like depression and bipolar. He's been such a outspoken, publicly speaking about issues with mental illness, which a lot of people don't talk about, and he does such a great platform to kind of advocate that, and in a non-apologetic way. He doesn't tiptoe around it at all, and that's something I really respect as well.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, more people need to do that. I think there'd be less tragedy going down if more people were like,
yeah, exactly. And a weird fact that I didn't know, it was actually Michael Cole who first made contact with Ronaldo back in 2015 about the possibility of coming to WWE. So we've got Michael Cole to thank for it as being the big push. And Ronaldo stated that he was really confused when he saw that Cole followed him on Twitter. And he contacted him and said, would you be interested in pursuing some employment possibilities with WWE?
Nice.
Cheers, Michael Cole.
Cheers, Mike. And Michael Cole. Michael Cole also got Nigel McGuinness the job, as is documented in the WWE Network documentary,
which you can get for $9.99.
You can get it for $9.99. It's worth it. It's $9.99 for this month. It's worth it for that Nigel McGuinness doc.
And you got the Royal Rumble coming up.
Man, yeah, come on, Vince. We're getting you some subscribers, mate. Help us out, or Michael. He seems to be
let's talk to Michael.
Iris, we're the Ant and Dec of wrestling. Get us in. Imagine us backstage doing Ant and Dec style stuff, like presenting with interviewing wrestlers, like doing promos backstage and stuff. That'd be money.
In like Britain's Got Talent or whatever, and they're just like waiting at the curtain and they're all like, oh, nervous and stuff. Just imagine us doing that, turning around talking, and then Regal being like, who are they talking to? There's no camera there.
Yeah. That would be so good. It needs to happen. Let's find anyone. Let's just find an indie fed or something, and Ant and Dec form.
Okay, that's how we're selling emails.
Who's Ant and who's Dec?
You're definitely going to develop the drug problem, and I really want to work with Holly Willoughby. So. And
you're the closeted homosexual.
Guilty. Yes.
Cool. No, I'm down with it. It's true on both counts.
Fuck you. You'll go.
My go. I'm on my number 3.
Keep up.
So, I know. So.
Oh, I'm just going to sit quietly for the next free then, shall I?
Yeah. I've done Taz and Tony Chavillon. So now I've got my number 3, which is, we talked about him a bit, the big man himself, Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
No, what about?
He's amazing.
He is amazing.
He was so... To all you kids listening who never witnessed Vince McMahon when he wasn't publicly the owner of the company and was instead just your play-by-play guy, much like Michael Cole is now, he was just, he was brilliant. He would just like, he was over-enthusiastic and cartoony, which is funny, as we can hear in the crossover drop. Play it again, please, Max. I know it's not a crossover, but could you just play it anyway? Yeah.
Shawn Michaels dancing on the roof in your house.
It's literally
so into it.
Live from Louisville, Kentucky.
He's got 2 voices, and they just I have no idea how it happens. And he's just so good, and he did his play-by-play stuff well. He was underrated for his humour, I think, particularly when he was with King and Jesse Ventura, as you mentioned. There was some good comedy going on there. He'd be quite funny and sort of put them down in a sort of fun way. Because he was running the company backstage, we know that now, the beauty of hindsight. You listen to it and you think, okay, so what Vince is saying right now is exactly what he wants us as viewers to take in. And that's quite helpful, really, when you know exactly what they're going for when the guy that came up with it is explaining it to you as it happens.
Yeah.
Right? So there's nothing lost in translation. And he's just great. And I really enjoyed 97, as I believe we talked about before, is one of my favourite years in WWF history. And that's the year that Vince McMahon transitioned from commentator to publicly being the chairman of the company and, Austin's nemesis. And all this
the
stuff.
Mr. McMahon character.
Yeah, exactly. And but that sort of transition with Brett and stuff is great. The sort of going from commentary and then getting in the ring with the Tyson stuff with Stone Cold is when he'd sort of get in the ring and then shouting at Stone Cold when Stone Cold started fighting Tyson, you ruined it, and all this. And you start to see this other side of this guy that you've known for years as this sort of play-by-play. But yeah, no, he was just great. He was really good. Anyone who hasn't properly listened to Vince McMahon on commentary back in the day before it was known that he was the chairman, it's a different Vince, and it's really good.
I will be sharing the Jesse Body Ventura and Vince McMahon commentary on that one particular match because I really need you all to hear it. It's so funny.
Awesome.
Excellent choice. Hit me with your number 2, Dan, and we'll do number 1 together.
Okay. I hope we're both on the same wavelength here. My number
that'd be
2,
awkward, wouldn't it?
My number 2, who very nearly was my number 1, but my number 1 only because he had a more direct impact on me as a child and my wrestling fandom. But my number 2 is Bobby the Brain Heenan. Rest in peace.
Excellent choice.
Thank you very much. Bobby the Brain, obviously, everyone knows how amazing he is. Again, kids, go back. I've been watching a lot of primetime wrestling recently. Have you watched any primetime wrestling?
I've not watched primetime wrestling.
Bobby and Gorilla. There's loads of it on the network, years and years, and it's amazing. It's like a talk show, but it's just Bobby the Brain and Gorilla sitting there talking to the camera and each other in a studio.
This match I'm going to show on Twitter is from Primetime, and when they throw to commercial break, it will go to Gorilla in this like SMTV kind of 90s talk room, and then it'll be like, we'll be right back after this break and see what happens in this match. Yeah, and they bring in and they just show the highlights of matches that have happened that week. Because this was pre-Raw, right? This was your weekly television show, so it would just be showing you highlights to keep people up to date who weren't going to the live shows. And it's just brilliant. You could put on, honestly, any one of those episodes, and Bobby Heenan and Gorilla, because they're a great team, but Bobby Heenan's delivering the comedy, and every episode is just hilarious. And Bobby the Brain just doesn't let up. He's just, funny on every episode, some great quotes. You don't even have to be a wrestling fan to sit there and enjoy it, because Bobby the Brain Heenan was so funny and smart with his humour that he could have succeeded in anything. He could have been a talk show host, he could have been a stand-up comedian, he could have been a radio star. He just happened to choose wrestling, but he had the ability to he just had that personality. He could turn his hand to anything. And that's what makes Primetime so good as a show. Now, as for his commentary during matches,
I always point to Royal Rumble 92, we talked about it last week, I believe, as just the greatest commentary performance ever. What did you laugh for?
No, it's just because immediately popped into my head what we were talking about. It's a skirt. When he's talking about Roddy Piper.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And his selling of, again, we talked about it in the last show, but his selling of Ric Flair throughout the whole match, because he really wants Ric Flair to win. And Ric Flair comes out at 3, and his sort of how annoyed he is at that, and how sad. And yeah, it's fantastic. And actually, Royal Rumble 93, if you've ever watched it, was the last Royal Rumble, or the last pay-per-view that Bobby Heenan ever commentated on for the WWF. Before he jumps to WCW, and it's a terrible Rumble, wrestling quality wise, but the commentary is fantastic. Bobby Heenan just takes the piss out of everything that's happening, and it's brilliant. It's very, very funny and well worth listening to.
Nice. I like the sound of that. And obviously Heenan, when it comes to Hulk Hogan and all that kind of stuff as well, he's just too funny and just too good at his job. Where
he's amazing. What a cruel twist of fate that the guy dies prematurely of not only cancer, which is sad enough, but a cancer that leaves him unable to talk for the last few years of his life, when the man was the best talker ever. And and in this podcast era, give Bobby Heenan with a podcast, man. He could talk about anything, and I would listen every day. Like, anything. It wouldn't have to be a wrestling podcast. He could just sit there and chat about what's going on in the news. He could get any guests. He could just talk about anything, and he would make it the most entertaining thing you've ever heard.
He was almost like a different person when he passed away, which was such a shame, because as you say, the voice was so iconic, and the quick-wittedness. He would have made an absolute killing in today's market.
I watched an old Slammies from the early. In fact, it was these Slammies that had Vince McMahon singing "Stand Back" on it. And Bobby Heenan was there, and it was when he had his neck trouble, so he was in his neck brace, but he had a bow tie clipped onto the neck brace, which I thought was amazing.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's just little things like that, and he'll do that, and he won't ever acknowledge it or make a thing of it. It'll just be there, and that makes it funnier. Oh,
Bobby Heenan, you treasure, and him and Monsoon. There's not been a better teaming.
So just honestly, go, if you're ever at a loose end, just put on any episode, just close your eyes and scroll on Primetime Wrestling and just whack on anyone, and they're all brilliant. They're just so funny.
There we go. So number 1 then, I think it's safe to say that we've got the same one. Am I correct? I'm going to say
I believe
good old
so.
JR.
Jim Ross. Boomer Sooner.
Michael dancing on the roof in your house. Kentucky.
I'm so sorry, everyone,
Did I tell you
that this is the first time in ages that you and me have had crossovers, and we've got the most annoying crossover sound ever.
It's not annoying, it's brilliant, and we've timed that it was needed. We've been very over the top with it.
Sorry. We just find it very funny.
It is good. His commentary throughout that whole match is worth listening to, Vince McMahon's. Did I tell you, talking about JR now, who obviously is our favourite, did I tell you that some of Bobby's family stayed with us a few weeks ago, and they are American. They're from Texas, but one of the kids who was staying went to university in Oklahoma. And
nice.
So he said that, and almost as a knee-jerk reaction because of JR, he said, "Oh yeah, University of Oklahoma," and I went, "Oh, Boomer Sooner," and he went, "Yeah, Boomer Sooner," and then started talking to me about college football, and I had to stop him really quickly. I was like, "I'm so sorry, mate. I don't even know what Boomer Sooner means. I have no idea. I just say it because I heard JR say it. That's all. That's my only point of reference, and I know it's got something to do with Oklahoma. But yeah, it turns out it's the college football. But he got very excited and then very disappointed quite quickly.
Yeah, you broke that little Texan boy's heart.
Exactly.
You're going to Texas in a couple of months. Just walk around saying it and see what kind of reactions you get.
I think just shout Boomer Sooner at people. But yeah, we'll see what happens. But I'd be better off doing that in Oklahoma, wouldn't I?
True, but I just want to get some reactions.
All right, I'll film some reactions and we'll put them on the YouTubes.
Thank you, appreciate that. Jim Ross, he's the voice of WF. He's the most famous example of people knowing a wrestling commentator, I would say. He's what everyone knows. He commentated for the NWA back in '74, which is where he found his love for wrestling. And the thing with JR, he can call wrestling at such a blistering pace of wrestling matches, but never get tripped up on himself.
Could in his heyday.
In his heyday, yeah. Like, cerebral palsy happens and shit goes down the pan.
He hasn't got cerebral palsy. He's got, oh God, what's it called? It's not cerebral palsy. That's the wrong thing. That's the muscle wasting.
Bell's palsy.
Bell's
Sorry.
palsy. Cerebral palsy.
It's been a long day for me.
There's a punk band that I used to be quite a big fan of from New York, I believe, and they were called Cerebral Ballsy, which I thought was a brilliant name.
So edgy. So edgy.
Yeah, I know. It's funny, though.
And Jim Ross's phrases, as we mentioned, Boomer Sooner has got Jesse connecting with people from the States, and the famous example is Kevin Owens learning English from watching JR's commentary and believing that slobberknocker was a genuine term of English.
A genuine term, yeah, and he learned things like the human anatomy. He learned quite quickly in English because of the way JR commentates, especially when people are in submissions. You learn that pretty quick.
It's very true. And the most famous line, which I think even non-wrestling fans will know, Mankind versus Undertaker, as God is my witness, he is broken in half when Mankind gets thrown off the top of the cell.
Very famous. Do you remember when we were about... we're being very vague about JR here, but everyone knows who he is and how good he is, surely, so we don't have to go into super detail. But do you remember when a YouTube video went viral in like 2005 or 2006 of JR My Ass?
Yes,
30 men will enter my ass. And all that. And it was like someone had just chopped up JR stuff and saying my ass and made it a rap, and it was funny. But that video got so over, right, that one of the most successful AMAs, Ask Me Anythings, that Reddit have ever done on Squared Circle was with the guy that made that YouTube video.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it was like, hi, I'm the guy that made the JR My Ass video. Ask me anything. And everyone's like, yes, we will. And and it was like a real hit. How amazing is that?
Well, and it's something that you feel like just you and me would have found, or me and some friends, but yeah, that shit was worldwide.
It was global.
Loved it.
You know what I'm listening to at the moment by coincidence? There's a lot of coincidences this week. Twitter vote for us commentators when we get a commentator as a guest, and also this week I've started listening to JR's audiobook. So
how is it?
It's good, but I think I'd rather read it because JR, for how amazing he is a commentator, the man cannot read. I mean, he can, Brilliant. Obviously, but he read. Like children. When children read out, it's like, once upon a time there was a dog, and they've got that sort of hesitation while they're talking, and it's not natural. Yeah. That's how JR reads his audiobook.
That's weird.
Yeah, and it's like, you're one of the greatest talkers of all time. Why are you talking like that? And you wrote this. It's not like you're reading someone else's thing. This is you talking.
This is your life.
Yeah, and it's almost like he does like a little joke in his book, but he delivers it wrong because it's all like he didn't know that the joke was coming. So like, it's like he wasn't expecting the full stop, and then you hear him sort of go, and then he starts the next sentence. It's really weird.
Oh dear. Oh, I love you, JR. Yeah, maybe stick to reading. It will be a good one. In fact, I didn't know about JR until I was researching all of this. So during WrestleMania 15, Rock and Stone Cold kind of deal, JR had been out with Bow's palsy issue. Nailed it that time. He'd been suffering from a bad bout of it. But the Rock and Stone Cold really wanted him to call their match, and he was like, okay, fine, I'll do it. He was holding, while calling the match, he was holding the paralyzed side of his face up with his hand while announcing, so the words would come out of his mouth clearly. And it had been so bad the night before and following, he had to tape his eyes shut just to get some sleep.
Jesus.
How much of dedication is that? Your friends beg you, it's like, no, I'm very ill, and fuck it, fine, I'll do it. And you're holding your mouth up so you can talk properly.
That anecdote is how JR starts his book. That is the first page of his book.
See, and didn't I deliver it in a much more entertaining way?
You did, so yeah, you said it naturally. But, I have an ex-girlfriend whose mum has Bell's palsy, and it is no laughing matter. It is. It's hilarious.
Horrible person. Another fact, and she wasn't a girlfriend, she was a one-night stand. Who are you kidding? And another fact...
What? Who do you think I'm talking... Oh, we'll talk about it off air.
Okay. Name names. So this is something I really didn't know. he has a massive fondness for John Wayne memorabilia.
Yes.
And I did not know this. So in his cookbook, apparently, True Ringside Tales, Barbecue and Down Home Recipes, JR reveals that his father had been a huge fan of John Wayne, and much like the football, it was passed on to JR. Some of his prized possessions include one of John Wayne's cigarette lighters, a personally worn monogram shirt, and 3 pairs of cufflinks, one of which he'd wear every year at WrestleMania.
Ah, that's nice. JR's barbecue sauce, when I go to Texas, that's something I'm going to hunt down. That's in supermarkets over there, right?
Must be.
So there was a period when JR's barbecue sauce was sold on WWEshop.com. And I have a friend who bought some T-shirts from WWEshop.com and thought, fuck it, I'll throw in some JR's barbecue sauce while I'm there. And forgetting or not knowing, and I wouldn't have thought about it either, I don't think, if I was there. It's a little impulse buy. But when you import food or drink from America, there are, especially when you're like 14 years old and don't have much money, the tax on that is horrendous. The import tax. And so he ended up having to pay like an extra 30 quid or something that he didn't really have as a 14-year-old, just to get this little tube of barbecue sauce or whatever it was. And yeah, and I was like, "Oh, that was the sauce," and he just went, "Oh shit."
Oh, bless. I'm gonna make a guess I'll make a guess as to which friend that was off air.
Okay, yeah, JR's barbecue sauce I'm gonna find in America, and Broken Skull IPA, Stone Cold beer. I want to try that as well.
Nice. Can you do a little Got Till 5 vlog? Would you vlog for us?
I'll vlog for you. Yeah, when I'm over there, exclusively on wrestling, food, and drink.
Yeah, and then I want you to get into a Booker T Stone Cold style fight in a supermarket.
Which, when you watch that, not thinking of it as a wrestling thing,
looks like a hate crime. Yeah,
looks like a hate crime.
100%. Just watch it with the sound off, with the commentary off, and watch people get uncomfortable as they walk in. Booker T gets flour thrown in his face. It's awkward.
I'm pretty sure my mum literally walked in on me when I was watching that once, and just like,
I can explain.
Yeah, exactly. Just slowly turned around and walked out. Like it would have been less awkward if she'd walked in and I was masturbating.
Because that was just a norm in your household.
Yes, as I used to say to my mother, West.
Oh, so JR, like, we're not going to beat around the bushes. Like, you know why JR's the best commentator. Like, listen to him call wrestling. It's great.
What's your favorite JR commentary bit?
Skittles.
Skittles.
No,
was that
it's
an interview or just a Raw that he did that?
It was Raw. There was like a couple of running weeks where he'd have to do it, and it would get more excited each and every time. It was great.
Fruity Skittles, rainbow Skittles or something. Yeah, it was great.
I think my favorite JR call is whenever I think we had the sound drop at some point, and I'm going to find it now because I swear we have it. But it's JR calling someone a son of a bitch.
Son of a bitch.
I think it's like the greatest thing. Yeah, here it is.
Yeah, we used that for a crossover drop, didn't we, a few years ago? Weeks ago? Years ago? What's going on?
Feels like years ago.
I hate you.
But yeah, that is just one of my favourites. What about you?
So I've talked about this before. I think one of his finest pieces of work, which we will sadly never hear anymore, is his commentary when Chris Benoit wins the world title at WrestleMania 20.
Yes.
His whole monologue there about Chris Benoit's 18-year odyssey, everybody said you couldn't do it, all this. He does a fucking smashing job with that. But also, the Raw where Lita turns on Kane and joins Edge. When that happens, JR's passion of saying about, shouting about what a horrible piece of shit Edge is, what a horrible man he is. And, he's just done the unthinkable, to Matt Hardy, really. But in storyline purposes at the time, Lita was with Kane. And betraying Kane like that. He just delivers it with such passion and anger. And I think it really helped get Edge over as a massive heel. and get that unit over. Just the passion that JR delivered that was phenomenal. If you haven't heard that, give it a listen.
Yeah, I think that's something he always delivered well, was the passion. Obviously, when Stone Cold, the Austin era has begun and stuff, you know, just he always had passion. Same for what we were saying about Ronaldo, but it was just the way JR used to deliver stuff made it that much more believable.
Definitely.
So those are our personal top 5 favourite commentators. A few crossovers, which is a nice change. We've been very distant. A hat trick, exactly. We've been very distant from each other lately, so it's nice to have that crossover back in our lives.
Nice to be back. I feel closer to you than I ever have right now.
It was a beautiful moment, and thank you for Colin to coming on. That's we just need to get more ring announcers. They seem to be like our favourite interviews. They're good
talkers, man. They're
good talkers, exactly.
Yeah, they're good talkers. They're funny. They're just nice dudes.
So we're just going to book commentators.
And massive fans of pop punk.
Yeah, right.
Every announcer we've had, which is awesome. We're well up for that. More of that, please.
Yeah, seems to be a pattern emerging. So thank you for Colin to coming on. As we said, check out the Kamikaze show coming up February 2nd at the Coventry Empire. Nailed that one. Fluid. And go check out his band as well if you're in Birmingham. Why not? It's at the Flapper.
Why not? Mouth of the Midlands.
Yeah, damn right. So yeah, thank you for that, and thank you to Jesse. I had a lovely time doing managers.
This was fun. I really enjoyed this show.
I really enjoyed this show as well.
I enjoy every show, obviously, but this one I really enjoyed, and it sprung up out of nowhere. Like, we only obviously knew that we were doing commentators when, like, this morning or something.
This morning, yeah.
Yeah, and so barely any time to knock anything up, but it's been off the cuff and lovely.
Exactly. Seeing as it came in second, I think it's only fair that next week in a fortnight's time, we'll be doing top 5 women's matches.
I'm surprised we haven't done that before.
I know, we've done top 5 women's wrestlers of all time, which was a fun one, but we haven't done women's matches, and I think we're going to have some good ones in there.
It's sort of good that we're doing it now and not back when we started, because a lot of good ones have happened since we started.
Exactly. I think we've had the vast majority of great matches, and it's going to be weird because a lot of them are going to be very new and recent.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that one.
We'll dig out some old ones because we're snarky pricks.
Well, of course. That's what we do. Bit of Bull Nakano and Alundra Blaze.
A bit of, I thought you were going to sing the Yokai song then. Bit of Bull Naka Naka Boo Boo.
Yokai, obscure reference for anyone that knows that one. We'll appreciate you being a fan.
Yeah, sorry, that's obscure, isn't it? It's alright though. Do you ever listen to podcasts though, and they bust out something obscure that you know, and you go, oh, that's lovely that they mentioned that. It's like they're talking to me.
Exactly.
There'll be one person out there that felt that from that.
Has a little mark out in their bed of like, woo!
Yeah.
It was for me. So we're doing top 5 women's matches, and we also have an interview with a very good uprising talent in the UK scene who's going to have an amazing year, an amazing 2020. That's the OJMO. I'm very excited to have him on. Where was I? I was at Pro Wrestling Soul, brand new promotion in London, that are doing their next show in March, and it's Pro Wrestling Soul Electric Boogaloo, and it's going to be absolutely great. And guess who won front row VIP tickets to the show?
I'll never guess.
Your boy.
No way.
I know, right?
Amazing. So I'm getting mine in the post, right?
Yeah, sure, mate.
And he was never heard from again.
So I spoke to OJ after the match, and he said he'd love to come on. I also saw a British Rounds match, and it was absolutely phenomenal to watch. But worth checking out on our Twitter page. And where can people find our Twitter page, Jesse?
They can find our Twitter page, among many other bits of interesting stuff, at gottill5.com.
Which has recently been updated because I had a batch of insomnia the other night, so I redesigned our logos and banners and stuff. So it all looks pretty and new, so go check it out.
There we go. Awesome. And my D. Malenko article's still up there, I believe. And,
it is.
If anyone hasn't read that, read it. I wrote it a long time ago now, and I promise I will write a new one soon, he's been saying for the last year. But exactly. I will.
We are on Steve's podcast next week following the Royal Rumble, where we'll be running down, because we don't do current shit on our own podcast. We bombard Steve's.
Yeah, we invade others.
So we'll be on Steve's Da podcast next week. Stay tuned for that. I think it comes out next Friday, or actually no, it's a bonus episode, so we normally uploads it pretty quick, and we'll be running down the Royal Rumble, our predictions that we've made, and I'm very looking forward to doing that as well. So enjoy your time, whatever you're doing right now. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to Colin. Thank you to Jesse. And I'm looking very much forward to the next show, aren't you?
I can't wait. Thanks, mate. I like this job.
Have a wonderful time, everyone. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you soon.